we can't have nice things. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys that I have a confession. I've never owned a Kia. That's not really a confession. But the thing is that even though people like to attribute Kia to being the value brand, and they like to attribute them to being basically a one-size-catch-all to essentially, I don't know, they're boring to drive. But one of the greatest things to ever come out of Kia, no, not the Sophia, was the Kia Stinger. Now, I did a poll about which video you guys wanted to see, and the one that beat out everybody was cars that pretty much were cheap. But the one that came second place was indeed the Kia Stinger. Now, if you guys do not remember the Kia Stinger, it is a fastback that was produced by Kia back in 2017. And I'm going to tell you that it is probably one of the greatest things to ever come out of Kia's lineup. And it's part of the reason why we see Kia as such a different brand than we used to today. Aside from the Kia boys, we're not talking about that. But even though the Kia Stinger was a great car, it didn't do well. And while it seems as though the reason is obviously it just did not sell in comparison, I'm not gonna hold you. I believe skepticism is what killed the Kia Stinger. And in this video, we'll be talking about that. So with that being said, stick around and stay tuned because you are now watching The Breakdown. Now, I'm not going to hold you. The Kia Stinger, for all intents and purposes, was a fastback that was created by Kia, and the development goes back as far as early as 2011, when we started to begin to see some different design languages come from Kia. And my personal favorite that I remember distinctly was the 2011 Kia Optima with the 2-liter turbo. Don't ask me why. And my other personal favorite was the Kia Optima Hybrid. I don't know why I love that car. But the Kia lineup for the last 20 years before 2015 was very stale. Like many of the other Korean cars and Japanese cars and even some American cars were kind of boring in design. And I mean, even Honda and Toyota have acknowledged that they were boring to some degree. And Kia was one of the first companies to really transform themselves to say, we want to be not so boring and we want to excite people. And I believe it was the power to surprise was their tagline. I don't really remember. But the marketing around 2010, 2011 really shifted where Kia was going. If you remember the Tiger Shark grille that came out, and I believe that Kia at this time was also as a result of Peter Schreier, who was a head designer, and he came over from the Audi Automotive group. He changed and transformed the way that Kias were presented, if you will. Fast forward into 2016, 2017, we are finally introduced to the Kia Stinger. The Kia Stinger, by design, was amazing. There was nothing like it. And a lot of us automotive enthusiasts were really excited because for the first time, we got everything we wanted in one package. Now, you could get the 2-liter turbo, but you could also opt for the 3.3-liter twin turbocharged V6. The difference between this car, unlike many of others Kia's lineup, is that this was rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive with the rear-wheel bias. And it had a lot of different handling dynamics that really made it different from the competition. So much so different from the competition that it was expensive. This car ran anywhere up between $37,000 all the way up to $55,000. And yeah, I don't know if too many people wanted to pay that. The thing is that for Kia, a lot of people have this idea and this precedent, and it's really a testament to branding. A lot of people do not understand the power of branding, the power of messaging. And if you present yourself a certain way, and this is why they call them impressions, it becomes a little different to tear away from that. No matter how good your product, no matter how good your design and your style is, it takes almost an entire generation to forget of what you used to be to enter into a new generation of who you are. And, ooh, I ate with that one. But with Kia, for the last 20 years prior to the Stinger, they could not shake being the plain Jane brand. And I believe they entered into the United States roughly around 97, and that would be right on time for 2016, 2017. This car was in competition with the likes of the Audis, the Mercedes, basically the Germans, the BMWs, because I think the 4 Series Grand Coupe was also a thing at that time. But the difference is that those brands, particularly have always been those brands, have had the cachet of being prestigious and being high up and being elite and being something that people aspire for. Who the hell aspired for a Kia? And And no disrespect to Kia, but that was the brand perception. And so the Kia Stinger throughout its run did not do that well. According to carfigures.com, this car sold a total of 70,607 units throughout its entire lifetime. Now, the reason why I believe that this really did not do that well, not so much because of its design, not because of its engines, not because of its powertrain, it's anything. It's just that people genuinely could not get past the idea of a Kia being that pricey. And this is not the first time that the Kia Hyundai sister brands have done something remotely exciting. We of course have the Genesis, which the Genesis brand is a very exciting brand in my opinion. It just does not get the cachet that many of the others do. And we used to have the Hyundai Genesis brand, which would be the Genesis Coupe and the sedan, which apparently the sedan is really reliable, and I've heard really good things about that, especially if you got the 3.8. Even the 4.6 was a very reliable car. Many people just said the interiors do not hold up as well. But overall, this is not the first time that we've gotten exciting products from Hyundai and Kia. If y'all remember, there was also the Tiburon, but for whatever reason, I just always think of rubber band cars. I can't figure it out. But the premise behind all these cars is to give something exciting. However, a lot of those cars also did not sell well. Even looking at Genesis brand today, they don't really do that well in terms of sales volume, typically because we're brand loyalists as consumers. And as we age and we get settled into our ways, it becomes very hard for us to pull away from what we used to know. And so this is also why a lot of the skepticism behind the brand of Kia really prevented the Stinger from being great. If you look at it on paper, it's what every enthusiast wants. The liftback design, it was spacious for a sedan. It had the functionality of an SUV, but the practicality of a sedan. And if you guys didn't check out my cross tour video, I talked about this as well. But the thing is to remember is that people don't look at the overall packaging of a car. And really what scared a lot of people was the reliability, or used to be reliability. Many journalists praised that car, even from the GT2 lineup, even though it was upwards of $54,000 and being a value bargain for those people who were looking for the more expensive BMWs and Mercedes. The perception of the Kia as well as a new name of Stinger just did not sit well. Now, there was a mild refresh up until 2023 where the Kia Stinger got discontinued, obviously because of poor sales and because many of the car makers were beginning to go electric, so they were already cutting their dead weight. But I do think it is a big lost opportunity on us as consumers, because on paper it was a very good brand and you still see a lot of them today. And I was a little skeptical of the twin turbo, the 3.3 liter, but they've been using that in many other applications, particularly the Genesis brand. And so we haven't really heard too many problems out of them. So it goes to say that the Kia Stinger in its entire life cycle should have been bigger. But as I've said before, everybody gets a little questionable when Kia and Hyundai come into the conversation. Even Nissan doesn't get the same amount of flack that Kia and Hyundai get, but I will say that Hyundai gets a little more praise for its designs as well as its products, with the exception of the Kia boys. We're not talking about that. But I do think it's important to remember that this is a prime example of what happens when we don't take advantage of what a car maker offers us in regards to fun as enthusiasts. And this is why we cannot have nice things. And if we don't buy these nice things, we will continue to not get them, and we will continue to complain on the internet, and then I end up making videos like this about why we should have bought it. But with that being said, you guys leave me a comment below and let me know if you either own a Kia Stinger, or if it's something that you thought about buying, or if you're thinking about buying, and if you would buy a new one if they were to bring it back out. And with that being said, until the next video, I will see you guys later.